In every season, the hand of the Lord is at work, in the seen and in the unseen. He leads us from glory to glory into the depths of truth, and all authority and every victory belongs to him. He is the Lord strong and mighty, and age to age he reigns on high, and the day is coming where every eye will see Jesus our King lifted up. For the knowledge of the glory of God will cover the earth, even as the waters cover the sea. Until the day of Christ Jesus, he has declared that we are the light of the world, a city set on a hill, a people who carry his name to the ends of the earth. And until that day, we are his ambassadors. We are his representatives, his bride, his sent ones. And as we go, we carry the gospel of power to a world desperately in need of the hope of this life-changing one, the Son of the living God. In truth, we carry on until Jesus, the everlasting one, returns in the clouds of glory, until the kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of our God, until we see him face to face. Because we were made for this. We were saved for this. For the discipling of nations, of cities, of our neighbors, and of our families. And unto this end, we live to see Jesus lifted high.
Hey, I'm Ben Mandrell, and I just want to say thank you for your partnership. As President and CEO of Lifeway, we value what you do, and we love that we get to work with people from around the whole globe. Our brand promise is changing the world through the word, church by church. And without people like you helping us figure that out and find the most effective ways to minister to those around the world, we just couldn't do it. So we believe in these kinds of relationships and we want to invest in them. So thank you for taking time today to grow with us and to learn more about where we're going in the future. God bless you.
Hello, friends and global partners. Welcome to Lifeway Global Connect. A little bit about myself. My name is Danny Williamson, and I am the manager for the Global English Sales Accounts. One thing is true, I have a heart for the nations. I want to see God's kingdom expand to the nations and his gospel proclaimed throughout the earth, providing the church with necessary resources to serve people and love people the way Jesus did, whether it's providing a Bible into their hands or, as we're going to be talking about today, providing the elements for communion and church supplies. So it's great to be with you today. I'm excited about what's ahead. And I just want to talk a little bit about what is our aim for this Global Connect and for this to be really a virtual time of connection, to be uplifting and a healthy reminder that we are by your side. We are here for you and we want to serve you well. Now, our goals for this virtual conference are really twofold. Equip you with tools, resources, and quality product at affordable prices. And the second thing is to encourage you in the grace of God during these challenging times. Now, I just want to provide a basic rundown of our time together today. The pre-filled fellowship cup, really the new normal for communion, is going to be what we're talking about today and what we're discussing and how we can equip you and encourage you in regards to these communion supplies. Now, we find ourselves in these challenging times, pandemic, social distancing, economic upheavals, and the list can go on how challenging these past 12 months have been. But God is still on the throne, and he will make a way where there is no way. You see, Jesus gave a clear command in Mark 14. Do this, speaking of communion, in remembrance of me. Take of my body, take of my blood, and remember me. Remember what I've done on the cross for you. So it's vital for us as the church to partake of communion. The Last Supper is a practice that we as believers are to keep, no matter the circumstances or challenges we may be facing. So by God's grace, this fellowship cup has been designed really for such a time as this. It's one of the ways God made the impossible possible. We see church services have changed. Social gatherings have shifted, and ways we take communion have needed to change. The fellowship cup now opens the door for the new normal and an adaptive way to partake of the Lord's Supper, and yet still be sensitive to the restrictions posed by COVID-19. So over the next few minutes that we have together, you'll be hearing from a number of globally minded friends of mine about these pre-filled communion cups and why they are so important in such a time as this. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, I'm Kevin Rudd. I'm an account manager for Lifeway Global. And today I'd like to talk about the state of the church before, during, and after the pandemic. Before the pandemic, as everybody knows, there was typical close person contact between parishioners at church. The rule of thumb was in-person worship services. We would gather for meals, we would gather for all kinds of ecclesiastical gatherings, including the Lord's Supper. In varying ways and degrees, technology was present, but it was a supplement to traditional church ministry practices. And then a year ago, a global pandemic hit. Now we have the imperative of social distancing and other public health practices to combat the transmission of COVID-19. There has been a widespread cancellation of in-person church services. Large group prayer gatherings and weddings and youth groups and other types of public gatherings have been canceled across the range of Christian denominations worldwide. And exceedingly, there's been a quick shift from in-person to digital church, including online streaming, radio, and TV church services. There's even been an increase in drive-in church services. Christian denominations, from Anglican to Catholic, Methodist, Baptist, Reformed, Presbyterian, have all published guidelines on adapting worship in light of the pandemic. Many dioceses and churches have recommended that older Christians just stay home rather than attend church services or Mass. In many regions of the world, there's been a surging of Christian faith and conversion as a result of the pandemic, drawing more people into the body of Christ and local churches. So, what do we have as we look forward? Post-pandemic, what will the state of the church be? We do believe that there will be a continuation of digital church ministry and resources, but there will be an uncertainty for at least a while about the degree to which Christians will return to in-person worship services. There will also be an uncertainty about the degree to which churches and people will return to traditional Lord's Supper or Eucharist services. And there will be an uncertainty for a while about the degree to which Christians will return to other types of in-person gatherings. That's why it's so important for us to have options when it comes to conducting communion services. And today, we're talking about fellowship cups as a great option.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake Catahenry and I am an account manager for Lifeway Global, and I also oversee a lot of our marketing efforts around the world. As Danny and Kevin have just talked about, as far as the state of the church and communion goes, things are boiling down to where we're trying to navigate and figure out like what a new normal looks like as it relates to the church, as it relates to how we do life together one-on-one in this kingdom, that we've gotten so accustomed to in the culture that we live in. What does that look like in the next phase of our lives, coming out of a pandemic as it relates to large church meetings and to gatherings and to social distancing and government regulations and restrictions? What does this thing that we talk about, this resource that we serve, the global church, what does this look like as we're moving forward? What do the ordinances that Jesus gave, like baptism and communion, what do those look like in a world that we've all had a shared experience? A global pandemic has had a way of giving everyone on earth a shared experience. It's shared humanity. In that sense, it's a very beautiful thing. But it's been very hard, and it's forced transition. It's forced an evolution, so to speak, in how we do things. The ordinances of Jesus go nowhere, but the mode in which we partake in that, in the Lord's Supper and in communion, these things now, we have to evolve with them. And the beautiful thing is that we do this in remembrance of Him. We do this to remember what His death and His burial and His resurrection, what His body and blood have secured for us as His followers. So as we are in the industry of resourcing the church, whether it's by being a distributor or a store or being a publishing company or the manufacturers of these products, every one of us play a part in resourcing the church, resourcing the bride to carry out the ordinances of Jesus. And our goal isn't just in the realm of being profitable, though that obviously that's how a lot of us make our living. But it's to resource and to have relevant products to be able to see around the corner, so to speak, as to what the church needs before it needs it. So we've got the product available and on the shelves by the time people say, you know what, we need a resource that talks about X, Y, or Z, or we need prepackaged communion supplies to meet the need of not wanting to pick bread out of a tray that's been passed by 65 people. This is where the fellowship cup comes in very, very handy. The new normal that we look for when it comes to communion, the new normal is individually sealed, packaged communion supplies. I'm excited to set up a couple videos here for you. The first one is going to be communion being taken in a modern setting, one in a church, and the second within a small group or a family. And so you'll get to see how the prepackaged communion actually works in these settings and what it actually visually, the experience of it, of how churchgoers will be experiencing these fellowship cups, as well as at home or in small groups amongst friends or Bible study groups. After that, we have a very special interview with Ricky King. He is the guy's amazing. He is the director of supplies for Lifeway. So funny, such a good guy, and so intelligent, and so smart as it relates to our church supplies. It's him and his team that have been able to navigate the last 13 months as this product has become it's gone completely wild in its sales, and so he's been navigating that. And I'm so excited for you to get a few minutes listening to Ricky talk about the Fellowship Cup and what makes it unique amongst all other prepackaged communion supplies. Once that interview wraps up, I will be right back with you and introduce the next segment to you. See you soon.
Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome Ricky King, the Director of Church Supplies here at Lifeway. Welcome, Ricky.
Hi, Danny. Good to be here.
It is great to have you. Could you tell us, how long have you been working with church supplies here at Lifeway?
I've been in church supplies. I began working in church supplies about 24 years ago.
Okay.
And in that time, we have developed a line of church supplies for churches, grown our catalog in various ways. We have about 4,000 different products that we offer churches on a weekly basis so that they can do the ministry that they need to do.
Yeah, so you are literally supplying the church with what they need to carry on and serve their people.
Yes.
That is great. That is great. So given your experience, your insight, your love for the Lord, could you just speak into the value of communion and what that means and why it's important?
Yes. I mean, when you think about the vast array of church supplies that we sell to churches and offer churches, we have communion supplies. We have the pre-filled cups as a part of that. We have bulletins. We have envelopes. We have teaching supplies and a whole array of other things. But central to our church supply line, of course, is our communion supply line. And that is bread and cups and communion ware, and it's also the pre-filled cup. Because communion is one of the institutions of the church that is constant. Jesus said, do this as often as you're together in remembrance of me. And so one of the things that we have been able to do over the years is offer churches a variety of different options in the communion space so that they can serve communion on a regular basis. The pre-filled cup, especially in light of the pandemic, has really taken off because it offers a safe, sanitary solution for churches to offer communion, as Jesus asked us to do.
That's right. So the essence of communion, we need it. It's because Jesus asked us to do it. And given the time that we have found ourselves in, it's been absolutely challenging.
Very much.
That we've all faced. The world has faced a challenge, and then especially the church has faced a challenge, wondering, I know many churches take communion every week.
Yes.
Others maybe monthly, but they're still wondering, how can we still do this? And so speak a little bit more into that, of how these pre-filled communion cups, these fellowship cups, are almost designed for such a time as this.
They really are. Our business in this area, the desire for this fellowship cup has risen. It's the number one selling pre-filled cup in the United States and globally as well. It's a safe, sanitary, effective way to distribute communion during a pandemic. I mean, traditionally, communion has been one of those things where you'll have a tray and the cups and the bread and hands are reaching in and there's multiple passes and touches. But this offers a solution to where you can take the cup, you can have the communion. It can be, done individually as well as collectively with the social distancing and all the requirements right now that have been put on churches for gathering. And it's also effective if you're gathering in small groups or in your own home. It's something that allows you to participate with your church online while it's streaming, and the church scattered is able to come together in a time of communion.
Absolutely amazing. It's a unifying piece that we have.
It really is.
And that we can use even in a time like this.
Yes.
So it's very comforting to know that. Now, thinking of the product, could you speak into the product itself a little bit without having to share any proprietary details or anything, but really simply speak about this cup of what makes it unique?
Well, one of the things that makes this unique, and there are a lot of good things about this. First of all, it's guaranteed for a year from the date of manufacturing. It is 100% Concord grape juice blend. It's primarily Concord grape, so it may have some red grapes or a little bit of white grape in there for stabilization.
Sure.
Just a touch of preservative to keep it fresh. No artificial sweeteners, no artificial anything in there. The bread, same thing. It's just flour and salt and water. Completely pure, completely fresh, and completely guaranteed.
Amazing, amazing. So listeners, you can know that this cup that's pre-filled, it's the same substance you'd be taking just at any normal communion moment. That you have the bread and you have the juice, and it's ready for you.
Yes.
So that is very, very comforting, very good to know. Anything else you'd like to tell us about this product?
Well, when you look at the fellowship cup and you think about it, it comes in a variety of different packaging options. We have a small 6-count box. We have 100s. We have boxes of 250.
Great.
We have boxes of 500 to meet the needs of larger fellowships and stuff. If you store it in a cool, dry place, like I said, the shelf life on this is a year. Freshness guaranteed. We stand behind all of the products that we make. One of the things that is unique is the seal on the top. You've got a top seal which holds the bread in with a clear film, and then underneath you have the foil,
That
that
opens up just
holds
like that.
exactly, and
There we
that
go.
holds the juice in. And
then there's the second.
And then there's the second seal.
Perfect.
So it's 1 cup, 2 passes, and you're able to take communion.
Absolutely amazing. Really, for such a time as this, we have the fellowship cup. Thank you so much, Ricky,
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. It's a real
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you so much, Danny. Thanks
right.
for having me.
You bet.
Isn't Ricky great? This guy has given his life, literally his time, his effort, his brain power into perfecting a product that now, in the middle of a pandemic, has become an essential product amongst churchgoers, where people are trading out the passing the tray thing or the taking communion directly from the hands of a priest or a pastor. They've traded that for the fellowship cup. And again, the ordinance of communion hasn't gone anywhere, but the method in taking it as a result of being in a pandemic is definitely evolving and it's transitioning. I'm excited to tell you about an interview that's coming up right now with Ashish Thomas and a local pastor out of Singapore. They used to use, pass the tray and the bread on a thing, you take it. And they've transitioned since COVID and the lockdowns and the restrictions placed on churches. They've traded that old method for the fellowship cup. And they're here in an interview to tell you about what that transition looked like, how it's benefited, any positive and negative experiences they had prior and through the pandemic, and how they're rolling right now with the rest of their church, engaging in the ordinance of communion, of the Lord's Supper, with the fellowship cup. Take a listen.
Victor, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with me and to speak with Lifeway about this season. I know it's been a difficult and a challenging season. So just as a starting point, could you tell me a little bit about your church?
Okay, I'm from Singapore. I attend the Kampong Kapor Methodist Church. The church is 126 years old.
Wow.
We have a congregation of around 1,000 people, and we have both the traditional service and the contemporary service, including Mandarin and Tamil service,
Wonderful.
and the Malay service. So we have different congregations within the church. So Sunday is a very busy day for all of us.
Understand. Yes. Like I said, this has been a very, very challenging season for churches around the world. And so tell me a little bit about COVID, how it impacted your church, your ministry, and churches in general in Singapore.
Well, when COVID came and when we have the lockdown by the government, the church practically shut down. And because we also have cases that came from the churches, so it was very, very concerned by the government to stop the church service as well as other religious service, not only the church, the mosques and temples, everybody stopped. So it was like a complete shutdown. So the government was very strict. They allowed the service, but they say only if you record it, and only 2 persons at the beginning.
Wow.
Actually, I do the recording for my church. So it's the pastor and me. 2 of us come together, he preached. I handled the camera, everything. It's a 2-man show, running the whole thing for months until we have a relaxed government rules which allow slightly more people to help with the recording.
How did you manage communion? It's a unique challenge that we do together as a community. And so how did you do communion in this season, and how were fellowship cups, Lifeway's fellowship cups in particular, helpful to you in this season?
Well, when we got the lockdown, we didn't have communion for 2 months.
Wow.
And our bishop was concerned because, communion is a very important ritual in our church. And so we were trying to figure out how best to do communion. We started to think of ways in which we can do communion. And one way is to use the fellowship cups that we can purchase from. So we have to scout around. I mean, there are different sources,
Sure.
but we want something that is easy to use, that is acceptable by everyone, and that we can also store it. We have to buy in bulk and store it for use. So we came across the Lifeway Communion Cups, and we like the whole packaging, the ease of opening it, and even the taste. It tastes better than the rest. So we decided to order from Crew Media, who was the distributor. And so we started the communion cups by first, because once the situation is, we were allowed 50 members to attend church.
Okay.
Now we have 1,000. So the rest, we have to ask them to pick up at an appointed time, or we have volunteers to deliver to the homes.
Okay.
And then we do communion online, live, together, because we have strict rules that the pastors have to consecrate the elements and all that. So we deliver it. So on Sunday, everybody tune in and we do communion together.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Once again, thank you for serving your church in this way and for finding ways to keep the community connected, even in the sacrament of communion. So thank you very much for doing that.
So global partners, friends, family, we thank you for the time that we had together today. I hope it was beneficial for you as it was for us. So this is meant for us to connect. We look forward to following up with you and you following up with us. And we're excited about how God is going to continue to use these fellowship cups to expand his kingdom and fulfill the needs of his church to remember him. Thank you once again. We look forward to all that's ahead as we persevere and endure in his name for the glory of Jesus Christ. God bless you.